Andrew Adebayo sat alone in his mansion in Lekki. Everything around him looked like a dream people pray for. The sitting room was wide. The chairs were soft like clouds. The air conditioner was humming gently. A chandelier hung from the ceiling like a golden crown shining bright. Even the marble floor looked like it had never been touched by dust. But Andrew did not feel like a king. He felt tired. He held a glass of water in his hand, but he didn't drink it. His eyes were on the big TV, but he wasn't watching. His mind was far away. Outside the tall glass window, Lagos was alive. Cars moved like ants. The lights from houses and street poles blinked like small stars. Lekki was always busy, always loud, always showing off. Andrew sighed. "This is supposed to make me happy," he whispered. But it wasn't. He was 30 years old, young and strong, and he had built a name that people respected. Some people feared him. Some people admired him. Many people wanted to be close to him. Not because of his heart, because of his money. He stood up and walked to the window. He rested his palm on the glass. And then, like a movie inside his head, memories started coming back. He remembered a woman from last year. Her name was Sandra. She used to call him my king every morning. She used to laugh loudly at his jokes, even when the jokes were not funny. One day, Andrew decided to test her in a small way. He didn't buy her a new phone that month. He didn't take her to dinner in a 5-star restaurant. He didn't send her money just because. Suddenly, her sweet voice changed. She started complaining. She started acting cold. Then one night, she shouted at him on the phone. "You've changed," she said. "Are you broke or what?" Andrew remembered how he had gone silent, how the words entered his chest like a knife. Not because she insulted him, but because he finally understood. Another memory came. A party on Victoria Island. Loud music, expensive perfume, women wearing shiny dresses, everybody smiling like they didn't have problems. One girl had leaned close to him and said, "I've always wanted to marry a billionaire. Not even I've always wanted to marry you. Just billionaire." Andrew had laughed that night like it was normal. But later, when he got home, the laughter died inside his mouth. Now, standing by the window, he breathed out slowly. "People love my name, not my heart," he said quietly. The words hung in the air like smoke. He turned away from the window and sat back down. His phone was on the table. It started buzzing. He looked at the screen. A message from a lady he had been talking to for weeks. "Good evening, baby. I miss you. When are you sending me something?" Andrew stared at it. He didn't reply. He placed the phone face down, and for the first time in a long time, he asked himself a question that scared him. If I remove the money, who will still stay? The next morning, Andrew was already dressed in a simple shirt and trousers, no designer suit, no expensive watch. He sat in his home office, staring at the city again. Then he called for Kunle. Kunle was Andrew's driver and assistant, a loyal man in his late 30s, calm, careful, and always watching. He had worked with Andrew for years, and he knew Andrew's mood even before Andrew spoke. Kunle entered the office and bowed slightly. "Oga Andrew," he greeted. Andrew nodded. "Kunle, sit." Kunle looked surprised because Andrew rarely told him to sit, but he sat. Andrew folded his arms and looked straight at him. "I want to disappear for some weeks." Kunle blinked. "Disappear?" "Yes." Kunle's face tightened. "Oga, is everything okay? Is it stress? Should we travel? We can go to London or Dubai, just to rest a little." Andrew shook his head slowly. "No, not that kind of disappearing." Kunle leaned forward, concerned. "Then what kind, sir?" Andrew took a deep breath, as if he was about to say something that would shock the whole world. "I will dress like a beggar." Kunle froze. For 2 seconds he thought he heard wrong. Then his mouth opened by itself. "Beggar?" Andrew nodded like he was talking about buying bread. "Yes, a beggar." Kunle's eyes widened. "Oga, are you okay?" Andrew didn't smile. "I am okay. I am tired, Kunle. I am tired of fake love. I want to find someone who will love me for me. Not my name, not my money. Kunle shook his head quickly. Ogre, no, this thing is dangerous. Why? Kidnappers, sir, Kunle said fast. Armed robbers, area boys, anything can happen. Lagos Street is not like your office. Somebody can stab you, sir. Somebody can just carry you into bus. Andrew leaned back in his chair. His eyes were steady. I know. Kunle's voice dropped, almost begging. Ogre, people will see you. Somebody can take a picture, blogs will carry it. They will say Billionaire has gone mad. Your enemies will laugh. The board. I don't care, Andrew cut in. Kunle looked pained. But sir, your mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo, if they hear this. Andrew's jaw tightened at the mention of his parents. That is exactly the problem, he said. Everybody is thinking of image. Everybody is thinking of pride. Nobody is thinking of my heart. Kunle swallowed. Sir, even if it is for love, this plan is too much. Andrew leaned forward now, his voice calm but firm. Kunle, I have tried everything. Parties, dates, big gifts. I even tried to hide my money, but they still found out. I want to remove everything completely. I want to see who will still look at me like a human being. Kunle stared at him, shaking his head slowly, like someone watching a child walk toward fire. Ogre, Beggar? Andrew nodded again. Yes. Kunle sighed hard. Then he said quietly, If you insist, I will follow you. Andrew's eyes softened a little. You won't follow me like a bodyguard, he warned. You will stay far. You will watch. You will only come if something goes wrong. Kunle nodded, even though fear was still on his face. Andrew stood up. Get me old clothes, he said. Worn ones, dirty slippers, something that looks real. Also, we need a backstory. Kunle rubbed his forehead. Ogre Andrew, you will finish me with a heart attack. Andrew gave a small, tired smile. Maybe, he said, but I need to do this. And as Kunle stood up to leave the office, Andrew looked back at the window again. This time, Lagos didn't look like a city full of lights. It looked like a test, and he was about to step into it. That same day, Kunle drove out of the mansion with a heavy heart. He didn't even know where to start from. How do you turn a man like Andrew Adebayo into a beggar? Kunle went to a quiet place first. Not a big boutique, not a shopping mall. He went to one of those roadside markets where people sold second-hand clothes, the kind people call it okrika. He moved from stall to stall, scanning the clothes like he was looking for trouble. Madam, give me the roughest one, he said. The woman selling clothes looked at him from head to toe, his clean shoes, his neat shirt, his careful speech. She laughed. Roughest? Ogre, you want to do film? Kunle didn't answer. He just pointed. He picked a faded brown shirt with a small tear near the shoulder, a dirty-looking pair of trousers with weak seams, a wrapper that looked like it had seen war. Then he found slippers, rubber slippers that were already bent as they had suffered. He also bought a small battered tin can from a roadside seller, the kind of beggars used when they were begging for change. By the time he got back to the mansion, he felt like he was carrying shame in a nylon bag. Andrew was waiting. When he saw the clothes, he nodded like it was normal. Good, he said. Kunle stared at him. Ogre Andrew, please. Are you sure? Andrew didn't reply. He just stood up and walked into his dressing room. A few minutes later, he came out. Kunle almost didn't recognize him. Andrew had changed everything. He wore the faded shirt, and it hung on him like it belonged to someone who had given up on life. The trousers looked too loose at the waist. The slippers were dirty and weak. His hair was no longer neat. Kunle had roughened it up with his hands until it looked like it hadn't seen a comb in weeks. Then Andrew did something Kunle didn't expect. He rubbed small ash and dust on his arms and face, just enough to dull his clean skin. He also messed up his beard, making it look rough and untrimmed. The last thing was the tin can. Andrew held it in his hand and shook it gently. Clin. Clin. That sound entered Kunle's heart. Kunle swallowed hard. Ogre. Andrew looked at him. How do I look? Kunle wanted to cry, but he forced the words out. You look different. Andrew nodded once. Good. Kunle shook his head slowly. If your mother sees you like this, she will faint. Andrew's eyes went cold for a second. That's why she won't see me. They drove out. Kunle parked far, just like Andrew instructed. Not close, not obvious. Andrew stepped out, carrying the tin can, and began to walk like a man who had nowhere to go. They entered a busy Lagos area, one of those places where the road never rests. Hawkers were shouting, "Gala, pure water! Plantain chips, buy your plantain chips!" Danfo buses were honking like they were angry at life. People were rushing, pushing, dragging bags, answering calls, chasing money. Andrew found a corner near a busy walkway and sat down on the bare ground. Just like that, a billionaire sat on the pavement. He placed the tin can in front of him and lowered his head. At first it was quiet. Then reality started. People passed. Some didn't even look. Some looked and quickly turned their eyes away like poverty was a sickness. A man muttered, "Lazy people everywhere." A woman hissed, "Gotta beg." Someone else dropped a coin into the tin can without even slowing down, like Andrew was a dustbin. Clin. Another coin. Clin. Not kindness, just pity, like feeding a stray dog. Then insults came. "See him?" one young man laughed as he passed with his friends. "Big man, stand up and work." Another person threw a coin harder than necessary, and it hit Andrew's knee. He flinched, but he kept his face calm. Inside, his stomach turned. So this is how the world treats you when you have nothing. Hours passed. The sun started going down. Kunle watched from a distance, restless. His hands were sweating. He kept checking his phone, ready to run if anything happened. Andrew remained there, quiet, swallowing his pride like bitter medicine. And for the first time in his life, Andrew Adebayo felt invisible. It was close to evening when Andrew noticed a small shadow stop in front of him. He raised his eyes slowly. A boy stood there, not more than 14. Small body, dusty slippers, a shirt that looked too big for him. His hair was rough, and his face carried that kind of tiredness children shouldn't have. The boy's name was Bayo. Andrew didn't know it yet. The boy looked at Andrew, then looked around like he was checking if anybody would shout at him. Then he brought out something from his pocket, a pack of cheap biscuits, the kind children buy for 20 or 30 naira. He opened it and pulled out 2. He stretched one toward Andrew. "Uncle, take," he said quietly. Andrew stared at the biscuit as if it were gold. He didn't move at first. In Andrew's mind, he was still the man with a mansion, but his stomach reminded him he was now beggar on the street. He took it slowly. "Thank you," Andrew said, keeping his voice low. Bayo nodded, chewing his own biscuit. Andrew watched him. This boy didn't have much. It was obvious. Yet he shared. Andrew's throat tightened. He looked away for a second so the boy wouldn't notice his eyes getting wet. "Why did you give me?" Andrew asked softly. Bayo shrugged like it was nothing. "Because you look hungry." That simple sentence hit Andrew harder than any insult he had heard that day. He reached into his trouser pocket. Not his normal trouser. The dirty beggar trouser. He pulled out a small note. Money Kunle had given him. Not plenty, just enough for moments like this. Andrew folded it and tried to pass it to the boy. "Take," Andrew said. Bayo stepped back quickly, like Andrew was trying to trick him. "No," the boy said fast. "Uncle, no." Andrew blinked. "Why?" Bayo shook his head. "If I collect, people will say I'm stealing from Beggar. Or they will follow me. Or they will collect it from me." Andrew paused. Even the boy's fear was teaching him something. Andrew looked around. The street was still busy. People were still rushing. Nobody cared. He folded the money smaller and moved his hand closer again, calm and gentle. "Bayo," Andrew said, guessing the boy's name by instinct. The boy blinked. "How you know my name?" Andrew's heart skipped. So that was his name. He quickly covered it with a small smile. "I just guessed." Bayo stared at him for a moment. Then Andrew said softly, "Take it. Not here. Put it inside your pocket. Don't show anybody. Bio hesitated. His fingers trembled slightly as he collected it. Then he held it tight like it could fly away. "Thank you, Uncle," he whispered. Andrew nodded. "God bless you." Bio gave him one last look, then ran off into the crowd like a small bird escaping danger. Andrew sat there holding the last piece of biscuit. And for the first time since he started this crazy plan, his chest felt warm. Not because he got money, because a boy with nothing still had a heart. And Andrew realized something that shook him. Real love might not come from the rich streets of Lekki. It might come from the dusty corners of Lagos. The next day, Andrew returned to the same place. Kunle dropped him far again and watched from a distance, restless like a father watching his child walk into fire. Andrew sat on the pavement, same dirty slippers, same rough clothes, same tin can in front of him. But something had changed inside him. After meeting Bio, he was no longer just doing a test. He was now seeing life. He was seeing people. He was seeing the world from the ground. The morning passed slowly. Coins dropped into the tin can now and then. Clin, clin. Some people ignored him like he were air. Some people insulted him under their breath. His stomach was already growling, but he kept his face calm. Then, around midday, he heard the sound of a car that didn't belong in that kind of street. A smooth black SUV rolled in, shining like it was freshly polished. It stopped nearby. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. Andrew noticed her immediately. She looked like money. Tall heels, big sunglasses, bright red lipstick, gold earrings that bounced as she moved. Her dress hugged her like she was going to a party, not a busy street. Even the perfume she wore reached Andrew before she reached him. Strong, sweet, expensive. The woman looked around like the whole area was dirty. Then her eyes landed on Andrew. She stopped. Her face twisted like she just saw something disgusting. "Ah!" she shouted, loud enough for people to turn. "What is this?" Andrew lifted his head, confused. The woman covered her nose with her hand. "See, Beggar," she said, pointing at him like he was a rat. "In this kind of place." Some people laughed. Andrew's ears became hot. He tried to look down, but the woman wasn't done. "You people should stop encouraging nonsense," she continued, "talking to anybody that would listen. Stop giving them money. That's why they'll never work. They will just sit down and be smelling." Andrew swallowed. He felt like the whole street was looking at him. He wanted to stand up and shout, "Do you know who I am?" But he didn't. Because that was not the point. Still, it hurt. It hurt because her words were not just insults. They were the kind of insults that remove your dignity. The woman scoffed again and stepped away from him like he would stain her dress. As she walked, she added one last line, loud and proud. "If you want to help, help your family. Don't waste money on beggars." Then she entered her SUV and drove off. The street returned to normal like nothing happened. But Andrew sat there with his chest tight. His throat was dry. His stomach was empty. Yet the humiliation inside him was heavier than hunger. He stared at the tin can, and for the first time, he understood something clearly. When you are poor, people don't just ignore you. They enjoy stepping on you. Later that afternoon, the sun became hotter. Andrew's sweat mixed with dust on his skin. His tin can had a few coins and small notes inside, not much. But on the street, not much can still attract trouble. Andrew noticed them before they reached him. 3 young men. Loose trousers, slippers. One had a face cap. Another had a chain on his neck. The last one chewed toothpick like he was looking for who to insult. They moved slowly, like hyenas. Andrew's heart started beating faster. He kept his eyes down, acting weak, acting harmless. They stopped in front of him. One of them clicked his tongue. "So now here you day," the boy said with a rough voice. Andrew didn't answer. Another one bent and peeped into the tin can. He laughed. "Ah, beggar don't get money, oh." The one with the chain looked around and then looked back at Andrew. "Oh yeah, give us our share." Andrew's throat tightened. Please, I no get anything. The boy with the cap slapped the tin can lightly. Kai, you dey lie. Before Andrew could even react, the boy grabbed the tin can and poured it out on the ground. Coins scattered. Notes flew a little. Andrew moved to pick them, but one of them pushed him back. Sit down, the boy barked. Andrew fell back hard on the pavement. Pain shot through his elbow. People were passing, but nobody stopped. Some even quickened their steps like they didn't want to be involved. The boy with the chain bent and started picking the money. Andrew's blood boiled, but he forced himself to stay calm. If he fought, he would expose himself. If he shouted, they could stab him. He was trapped. Then the boy with the toothpick grabbed Andrew's shirt collar and pulled him forward. You dey make money for our street, he said. You go pay tax. Andrew's eyes burned with anger, but he swallowed it. Please, he said quietly, leave me. The boy laughed and shoved him again. Andrew's back hit the wall behind him. That was when a loud voice cut through the noise. Hey, leave am! The three boys froze. Andrew turned his head and saw a uniform. A police uniform. A young man walked toward them with a hard face. He wasn't smiling at all. He had that strong "don't try me" look. His name was Officer Tunde, a junior police officer, late 20s, tall and lean, dark skin, short hair, serious eyes. He came closer and placed his hand on his belt, near his baton. What is going on here? He asked sharply. One of the boys forced a fake smile. Officer, we just dey play. Officer Tunde's eyes narrowed. Play? He repeated, stepping closer. So you dey play with beggar money? The boy with the chain tried to hide the notes behind him. Officer Tunde pointed at him. Bring that money. The boy hesitated. Officer Tunde took one more step, his voice turning colder. I say bring am now, before I make you explain yourself for station. That did it. The boy quickly dropped the money and coins. Officer Tunde looked at all of them like he wanted to slap sense into their heads. Shift, he barked. The boys backed away slowly, but one of them still tried to form tough. This one no be your concern, officer. Officer Tunde moved fast. He grabbed the boy's shirt and shoved him back. E no be my concern, he said. So when you start robbery in my area, e no be my concern. The boy's face changed immediately. Sorry, sir, he muttered. Officer Tunde released him. Oya disappear, he ordered. The three boys didn't wait twice. They walked away fast, throwing angry looks as they went. Officer Tunde watched them until they blended into the crowd. Then he turned to Andrew. Andrew was still sitting on the ground, dust on his clothes, elbow aching. Officer Tunde's face softened a little, but his voice stayed firm. You okay? Andrew nodded slowly. Yes, thank you. Officer Tunde stared at him for a moment, like he was thinking. Then he said, low but serious, This street is not safe. If you sit here again, dem fit hurt you next time. Andrew looked up at him. Officer Tunde didn't smile. He just added, Try find somewhere safer and watch yourself. Then he walked away like a man with many burdens. Andrew sat there, gathering the coins back into the tin can with shaky fingers. His heart was still racing. But one thing was clear now. This beggar life was not just shame. It was dangerous too. And Andrew had just met someone who might change this whole journey. A police officer with a hard face and a surprising heart. That evening, Kunle picked Andrew up like a man picking up trouble. He didn't talk much on the drive back. He just kept glancing at Andrew through the mirror, like he was checking if his boss was still alive. Andrew sat quietly in the back seat, staring out the window. His elbow still hurt small, but the thing that hurt more was what he had seen. The insult from the rich woman, the area boys, the way people watched and did nothing, and the way that the police officer appeared like thunder and chased trouble away. Officer Tunde. Andrew didn't even know why the officer helped him. He didn't collect money. He didn't ask questions. He just did what was right and left. That night, Andrew slept like a man who had worked hard on a farm. The next morning he woke up and still insisted on going back out. Kunle tried again.
Olga, please. One day is enough. Andrew shook his head. No, I need to continue. So Kunla prepared him again. The same old clothes. The same messy hair. The same rough beard.
And Andrew chose a different place this time. Not the exact street where the area boys knew his face. He picked another busy area where people moved like wind and nobody cared to know anybody. He sat down again like a real beggar. At first, it was a normal hardship. People passed. Some threw coins without looking. Some insulted him. A woman even hissed and pulled her child away as if Andrew carried infection. Andrew kept his head down and endured it. Then trouble came again. Not area boys this time. It was a group of young rich men, the type that liked laughing at people to feel big. They wore clean clothes, wristwatches and perfume. One of them pointed at Andrew and laughed. Guy, see this one? He still they breathe? The others laughed too. Another one brought out his phone like he wanted to record. Make I snap this one go trend. Andrew's heart tightened. Not because of shame alone, but because he knew what a video could cause. If his face entered the internet, his whole plan would scatter. He tried to turn his face away, but the men moved closer. One of them kicked the tin can lightly and the coins inside jumped. Kapai! Andrew's eyes flashed, but he controlled himself. He forced a weak voice. Please, leave me. The men laughed louder. Then a sharp voice cut through them. Hey! Andrew's head lifted. And there he was again. Officer Tunde. Same uniform, same hard face, same serious eyes. The rich boys paused. One of them scoffed. Officer, we dey joke. Officer Tunde didn't let him finish. You dey joke with who? He snapped. Una one start nonsense for here. The boys looked at each other surprised. They were not used to being talked to like that. One of them tried to form big. Officer, no be beggar be this. Leave Officer Tunde stepped close, his eyes cold. Leave he repeated. So because person no get money, you fit disgrace The men went quiet. Officer Tunde pointed at them. Oya, move. They hesitated again, then slowly walked away, still murmuring. Officer Tunde watched them go, then turned to Andrew. Andrew nodded with respect. Officer, thank you. Officer Tunde didn't smile. He just looked at Andrew with a tired anger. You dey find trouble, he said. Andrew blinked. Sir? Officer Tunde glanced around, then leaned closer small, like he didn't want others to hear. Stop going near rich people, he said, voice low but firm. Many of them no like to be disturbed. Them see poor people like dirt, like filth. Andrew swallowed. Officer Tunde's jaw tightened as if the words came from somewhere painful. I know this because I know what it mean to be poor, he continued. I no get anybody again. Now only my sister I get. He paused, and Andrew noticed something in his eyes. Not softness, not weakness, just pain hidden inside strength. Officer Tunde straightened up again, acting tough like before. Make you wise, he added. Because if anybody touches you wrongly, not everybody go get the police to show up 2 times. Andrew nodded slowly. I understand, officer. Officer Tunde looked at him, then looked away like he didn't want to care too much. But Andrew could see it clearly now. This man had a kind heart, but he was carrying something heavy. He had protective anger, like a man who had suffered before, like a man who was guarding somebody important with his whole life. Officer Tunde walked away again, leaving Andrew sitting there with a strange respect in his chest. Andrew watched him go and whispered to himself, this one, he's not like others. After that day, Andrew listened, not because he was afraid, but because Officer Tunde's warning felt real. So he changed location again. He chose a place that was still busy but not full of rich people, a place where normal working people passed, where market women shouted, where the smell of food mixed with dust and sweat. That afternoon, Andrew sat near a roadside food spot, a small buka-style place, not fancy, just a canopy, a table, a cooler, and big pots covered with lids. The smell that came from there was enough to make Andrew's stomach cry. Rice. Stew.
Fried plantain. And maybe beans. Andrew sat with his tin can near the corner, trying not to stare too much. Then he saw her. She moved out from behind the table with calm confidence. She was serving customers like she had done 1,000 times. She was young and very beautiful. Not the loud, shiny kind of beauty. Her beauty was quiet, natural. Her face was smooth and fine. Her eyes were clear. Her lips were full, even when she wasn't smiling. Her body was slim but strong, like someone used to hard work. She wore simple clothes, nothing expensive, but she still looked like somebody people would notice. Andrew found himself staring before he even knew it. She carried plates with steady hands, greeted customers respectfully, and didn't rush even though people were calling her. She didn't look proud. She didn't look desperate. She just looked like a woman trying to survive with dignity. Andrew lowered his eyes quickly, reminding himself why he was here. But his stomach betrayed him. It growled loudly. Not small. Loud enough. The woman turned her head. Her eyes landed on him. Andrew felt his chest tighten. He expected disgust, or insult, or that thing people did, looking away like he didn't exist. But she didn't do that. She watched him for a moment like she was studying him quietly. Then she wiped her hands on her apron and walked toward him. Andrew's heart started beating fast again. She stopped in front of him and spoke softly so others wouldn't hear. "Have you eaten today?" Andrew blinked. The question was simple, but in that moment it sounded like care. He swallowed. "No, Ma." She didn't laugh. She didn't wrinkle her nose. She didn't shout at him. She only nodded, like she already guessed the answer. "Wait," she said. She turned and went back to her pot. A few seconds later, she returned with a small plate of food. Not plenty, but enough. Rice and stew with a small piece of plantain. She placed it gently beside him. "Eat," she said. Andrew stared at the food like it was a miracle. He looked up at her, speechless. "Thank you," he finally managed. She nodded again, then looked around before lowering her voice. "Don't sleep outside at night," she warned. "This street is not safe. People can harm you." Andrew froze small, because the warning sounded familiar, like Officer Tunde's words, but he didn't say anything. He only nodded. "Yes, I won't." The woman stood up straight. Then she said one more thing, her tone calm but serious. "Eat and regain strength. Life is hard, but you must still guide yourself." And with that, she turned and walked back to her food spot, continuing her work like she didn't just touch Andrew's heart. Andrew looked at her again, then looked down at the plate. His hands shook slightly as he picked the spoon, and as he took his first bite, one thought entered his mind like a quiet voice. Maybe this is the kind of woman I've been searching for. Andrew did not sleep well that night. Not because of hunger this time. He had eaten. Nora's food had warmed his stomach like real home, but his mind kept replaying her face and the way she spoke to him. No pity, no insult, no disgust, just normal human respect. The next day, he woke up early and insisted on going again. Kunla sighed as he drove him out. "Olga, this is your plan. You don't turn something else," Kunla said, watching him from the mirror. Andrew didn't answer. He only looked outside, quiet. When they reached the area, Kunla parked far like always. Andrew stepped down and walked to the same roadside food spot. His heart was beating fast like a small boy going to see his crush. He sat near the corner, a tin can in front of him. He tried to act normal, but he kept stealing small glances at Nora. She was already busy. Customers were calling her. "Nora, give me 2 wraps. Nora, add meat. Nora, hurry up, please." She moved from pot to pot with steady hands. She wiped sweat from her forehead. She served food with patience. Even when some customers spoke to her anyhow, she still answered calmly. Andrew watched her and felt respect. This wasn't a woman doing soft life. This was a woman fighting life with both hands. After some time, Nora noticed him again. She didn't frown. She didn't ask why he came back.
She only walked to him quietly, like yesterday. "You again," she said, but her voice wasn't rude. It sounded like a small surprise. Andrew managed a weak smile. "Yes." She looked at his face, then at his dirty slippers.
"Have you eaten?" she asked. Andrew shook his head. Nora sighed softly, not in annoyance, but like someone who understood struggle too well. She went back and came with food again. This time she added a small piece of meat. Andrew's eyes widened. "Thank you," he said quickly. Nora waved her hand like it wasn't a big deal. "Eat first," she said. Andrew ate slowly. Nora stood there for a moment, watching him like she was making sure he was really okay. Then she said quietly, "You should not stay too long outside. People are not kind." Andrew nodded. "I know." Nora's eyes softened. "You don't have family?" she asked. Andrew hesitated. His throat tightened small. He wanted to say, "My family is rich, but they don't understand me." But he couldn't. So he forced out a different answer. "No," he said softly. "Not really." Nora stared at him for a second, as if she could see through the lie. But she didn't push. She just nodded slowly. "I live with my brother," she said. "It's only both of us." Andrew looked up. "Only both of you?" She nodded, her face calm, but her eyes carrying something deep. "Yes," she said simply, then turned back to her pot before the conversation could become too heavy. But Andrew had already heard enough. Only both of them. That meant pain. That meant struggle. That meant responsibility. And Andrew understood that kind of life more than people would ever believe. Over the next few days, Andrew kept coming. Not every customer noticed him, but Nora always did. Sometimes she gave him food. Sometimes she gave him water. Sometimes she just spoke to him small. "How you day today? You slept well? Try not to sit too close to the road." Small things. But to Andrew, it was big. And what touched him the most was this. Nora never looked down on him. Even with his dirty clothes and rough beard. Even when people stared. Even when some customers whispered, "Why should they help that beggar?" She still treated him like a human being. Like someone that mattered. Andrew started looking forward to those quiet moments. Sometimes, when the crowd reduced, Nora would sit for 1 minute, breathing, and Andrew would just watch her, not even talking. Sometimes their eyes would meet, and Nora would look away quickly like she didn't want him to see her tiredness. Andrew would feel something in his chest. Not lust. Not pride. Something softer. Something real. And he started asking himself again, is this what love looks like? One evening, Andrew came later than usual. The sun was already going down, turning the sky orange. Nora was still serving people, but the rush was not as much as earlier. Andrew sat quietly, waiting. When Nora finally got a small break, she walked toward him and sat on the edge of her bench, not too close, not too far. She looked tired. Her shoulders were tense. Her fingers had small stains from stew and smoke. Yet she still looked beautiful. Not because of makeup, but because of strength. Andrew cleared his throat. "You work too hard," he said. Nora looked at him, then gave a small smile. "Who will work for me?" she replied. Andrew nodded slowly. He wanted to say, "If you know who I am, you won't have to suffer like this again." But he kept it inside. Nora looked at him again, this time like she was ready to talk. "What is your name?" she asked. Andrew's heart jumped. He had planned a fake name, but somehow sitting in front of her, lying felt heavier. Still, he couldn't tell her the truth yet. "Andrew," he said quickly. It was his real name, but it still felt like a lie because he wasn't giving her the full Andrew. Nora nodded. "Andrew." She said it like she was tasting the name. Then she asked, "How did you end up like this?" Andrew hesitated. The real story was too big, so he picked the fake one he prepared. "I used to be in school," he said quietly, "but I couldn't finish. Money stopped. Life happened. I lost my way. Nora listened without judging him. No eye roll.
No insult. No, you should have tried harder. She just nodded slowly like she understood how life can turn suddenly. That's life, she said softly. Sometimes it pushes you down. Andrew looked at her.
What about you? Nora sighed. She stared at her food pots like they were her whole life. I wanted to go to school, she said. I still want it, but money is tight. Andrew's heart squeezed. You want to go back? He asked. Yes, she replied quickly, like it was something she refused to let die. I want to learn. I want to do more than this. But, she shrugged, and the shrug carried pain. This is what is feeding us for now. Andrew was quiet. He didn't know what to say. Because for the first time, he wasn't thinking about how beautiful she was. He was thinking about how much she deserved. Nora stood up again as customers started calling. But before she left, she turned back. Andrew, she said. Yes. Try and keep hope, she told him, even if it's small. Andrew swallowed hard. He nodded. Okay. As Nora walked back to serve food, Andrew watched her, and something inside him shifted. This woman was not just kind. She was smart. She was brave. She was trying. And the more Andrew came, the more his bond with her grew. Slowly, naturally, like two people meeting in the middle of pain and finding peace in small conversations. Andrew kept coming back, even on days he told himself he would not. Even on days Kunle warned him to rest. Something always pulled him back to Nora's stall. Not only the food, Nora. She was getting used to seeing him around. She did not treat him like a close friend, but she was kinder now. Sometimes she greeted him with a small nod. Sometimes she asked if he was okay, and sometimes she smiled briefly. That smile always stayed with Andrew. But not everyone liked what was happening. One afternoon, a group of customers came to the stall. They looked richer than the usual people who bought food there. Their clothes were clean and expensive. Their voices were loud. Their phones looked new. Andrew noticed one man in that group. He had been coming to Nora's stall for a while. He always tried to talk to her too much. He had been asking her to be his girlfriend, but Nora always refused him. Andrew could tell the man did not like rejection. The moment the man saw Andrew sitting near the stall, his face changed. He looked Andrew up and down and laughed, trying to impress his friends. "So you are still keeping this beggar around?" he said loudly, looking at Nora. Nora did not answer. She continued serving food. The man moved closer. "You act like you have standards," he said. "You keep refusing me and other better men, but look at the kind of man you allow around you." His friends laughed. One of them said, "Why is a beggar always here?" Another one added, "Maybe she likes suffering." The man smiled in a cruel way and said to Nora, "You have very poor taste in men." Andrew felt his body tighten. He wanted to stand up. He wanted to speak. But he knew it could make things worse for Nora, so he stayed quiet. Then Nora turned fully to the man. The whole stall became quiet. Even the customers slowed down and watched. "Mind your words," Nora said. The man scoffed. "Or what?" Nora stepped closer. She was not afraid. "You can insult me if you want," she said, "but you will not insult him." The man laughed again. "Him?" "Nora, he is a beggar. Look at him." Nora's eyes stayed sharp. Then she said clearly, loud enough for others to hear, "He is a human being." The words landed like a slap. Nora continued, calm but firm. "Whether he has money or not, he is still a person. He has feelings. If you cannot respect him, then respect my stall and leave." The man stared at her, shocked that she could speak that way to him. "So you choose him over me?" he asked bitterly. "I do not choose pride or cruelty," Nora replied. "If you cannot behave, do not come here again." The man could not say anything. People were watching. He gave a bitter laugh and walked away with his friends. As they left, one of them muttered, "She is foolish." The stall returned to normal after a while. People started buying food again. But Andrew sat there, deeply touched. Nora had defended him in public.
Without shame, without fear, without trying to impress anyone. Andrew felt a tightness in his throat. No one had ever done that for him before. Not even the women who claimed to love him when they knew he was rich. Nora walked back to her pot and continued working as if nothing happened. But as she passed Andrew, she said quietly, "Do not mind them." Andrew nodded slowly, and in that moment, something changed in his heart. That evening, Andrew stayed around longer than usual. Nora was closing late. The sky was dark. The street lights were on. There were still people outside, but the crowd was thinner. Nora packed her plates and wiped her table. Andrew sat nearby, pretending to rest, but he was watching. Not in a strange way, in a careful way. Andrew had seen too much on the streets. He knew night could bring danger. As Nora lifted her cooler, 2 men appeared from the side. They did not look like customers. Their eyes moved too quickly. Their steps were slow and deliberate. One of them smiled. "Nora, you are closing?" he asked. "Yes," Nora answered, staying calm as she continued packing. The man stepped closer. "Let us walk you home." "No," Nora said quickly. "I do not need that." The second man moved behind her table, blocking her path a little. "Why do you always act proud?" he asked. "You are fine, but you do not respect people." Nora's fingers tightened around the bucket. "I said no," she repeated, firmer. The taller man leaned in. "Give us your number," he said, "or you will regret it." Andrew's heart jumped. His first instinct was to rush at them, but he remembered his disguise. If he fought like a strong man, it would expose him. So he acted smart instead. He stood up slowly and came closer, pretending to be weak. "Please leave her alone," he said quietly. The men turned and laughed. "Look at this beggar," one of them said. "You want to be a hero?" The taller man pushed Andrew's shoulder hard. Andrew staggered back on purpose, acting weaker than he truly was. "Sorry," Andrew said quickly. "I did not mean—" Then Andrew did something simple but clever. He raised his voice so people could hear. "Help! Thief!" The word thief always draws attention. 2 women nearby turned their heads. Some people slowed down. The 2 men became nervous. Nora stepped back quickly. One of the men reached for her arm. Andrew did not think. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted it just enough to make him let go. Not like a fighter, just like someone protecting a person. The man hissed in pain. At that moment, a loud whistle sounded. "Stop!" Andrew froze slightly. He knew that voice. Officer Tunde. Tunde ran toward them quickly, holding his baton. The 2 men tried to run. Officer Tunde caught one immediately and pinned him against a wall. He put handcuffs on him fast. The second man ran into the darkness. Tunde pointed and chased him. For a moment, Andrew and Nora stood beside the arrested man. Nora was breathing hard. Her hands were shaking. Andrew moved closer. "Are you okay?" he asked. Nora nodded, but she looked frightened. Then Officer Tunde returned. The second man had escaped, but Tunde's face showed he would not forget. Officer Tunde turned to Nora. His expression changed. Not like an officer talking to a stranger, like a brother talking to his sister. "Nora," he said sharply. Andrew's chest tightened. So this was her brother. Now Andrew understood why Officer Tunde always seemed to appear. He was not just doing his job. He was watching over her. Officer Tunde then turned to Andrew and stared at him. His eyes narrowed. "This beggar is too calm," he muttered. He stepped closer, studying Andrew's face. "How did you know to shout thief like that?" he asked. "And why did you grab that man without fear?" Andrew lowered his eyes and forced a weak voice. "I just did not want them to hurt her." Officer Tunde did not reply immediately. He looked from Andrew to Nora and back to Andrew again, like his mind was putting things together. Nora spoke softly. "He helped me. Please." Officer Tunde's jaw tightened. He nodded, but his suspicion did not leave. He pulled Nora slightly aside. "You should not close late again," he said firmly. Then he looked at Andrew again. "And you," he warned, "be careful. This street is not safe." Andrew nodded. But inside his mind was racing. Because now the mysterious officer was not mysterious anymore. He was Nora's brother. And if Officer Tunde ever found out who Andrew really was, everything would change. Officer Tunde did not leave immediately after the incident. He held the arrested man firmly and spoke to a few people nearby, asking them to stay away. Then he turned back to Nora with a hard look on his face. "Nora, come," he said. Nora followed him a few steps away from the stall where people could not hear well. Andrew stayed behind, pretending to be busy arranging his tin can, but his ears were sharp. He wanted to know what her brother would say. Tunde lowered his voice, but it was still firm. "What were you doing closing this late?" he asked. Nora looked tired, but she answered calmly. "I had to sell the food. If I don't sell it, we lose money." Tunde sighed like a man carrying a heavy load. "I understand," he said, "but you are not safe at night. I cannot be everywhere." Nora nodded. "I know." Then Tunde's eyes shifted back toward Andrew. His face tightened again. "And that man," he said, "you need to stop this." Nora frowned. "Stop what?" Tunde spoke slowly like he wanted every word to enter her heart. "That man is not your future." Nora's eyes widened slightly. "Brother, what are you saying?" Tunde's voice became sharper. "We are orphans," he said. "I did not suffer to raise you, so you will end up marrying poverty." Nora's mouth fell open, shocked by how blunt he sounded. "Brother," she said, trying to stay calm, "kindness is not poverty." Tunde shook his head. "Nora, you are too soft," he said. "Life is not soft. Love does not pay school fees. Love does not build a better life." Nora crossed her arms. "So because someone is struggling, they do not deserve respect." "That is not what I am saying," Tunde replied quickly. "Respect him, yes. Help him, yes. But do not tie your destiny to him." Nora's eyes filled with quiet anger. "You do not even know him," she said. "You only see his clothes." Tunde looked away for a moment, then back at her. "I see reality," he said. "I see what we have been through. I know what it means to wake up and worry about rent, to worry about food, to worry about sickness." He leaned closer. "I want you to meet someone stable," he continued. "A rich man who can sponsor your schooling, who can take you out of this struggle." Nora's voice dropped. "So you want me to marry for money?" "I want you to marry for a future," Tunde corrected. "If a good man has money, that is not a sin." Nora shook her head slowly. "And if a good man is poor today, does that mean he will be poor forever?" she asked. Tunde did not answer that. He just said, "Be careful, Nora. I am warning you because I love you." Nora's face softened, but she still stood her ground. "I hear you," she said quietly, "but I will not treat people like they are nothing." Tunde's jaw tightened, but he nodded once. "Fine," he said. "Just be wise." Then he walked away with the arrested man. Nora stood there for a moment, breathing slowly. Andrew watched her from where he sat. He could see it on her face.
She loved her brother, but she did not agree with him. And Andrew felt something heavy inside his chest, because for the first time he clearly understood what he was walking into. This was not just about him and Nora.
This was also about her brother and everything he had sacrificed. The next day, Andrew returned again. He told himself he would not come too early, but he still came. His feet led him there like it had become a habit. Nora saw him and greeted him with a small smile. "You came," she said. Andrew nodded. "Yes." That day was quieter than usual. The rush was not too much, and Nora had a few calm moments. She sat down briefly while keeping an eye on her pots. Andrew sat near her, and for a while they just stayed quiet. It was the kind of silence that did not feel awkward. It felt safe. Then Nora spoke. "Andrew," she said softly. "Yes." She looked at him carefully. Not with suspicion exactly, but with curiosity, like she was trying to understand the full story behind his eyes. "You do not talk much about yourself," she said. Andrew's heart beat faster. "I told you," he replied gently. "I was in school, then I dropped out. Things became hard." Nora nodded, but she did not look satisfied. "There is something you are not saying," she said quietly. Andrew swallowed. He looked away, then looked back at her. For a moment, he wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to say, "I am not who you think I am. I am not a dropout. I am not poor. I came here because I was tired of fake love." He opened his mouth. "Nora, His phone buzzed. Andrew froze. Only a few people had that number. He checked the screen. Kunle. Andrew's stomach tightened. He stood up quickly, stepping a little away so Nora would not hear clearly. "Hello?" he answered. Kunle's voice came fast and urgent. "Sir, we have a serious issue at the company. It cannot wait." Andrew closed his eyes briefly. "What happened?" he asked. Kunle explained in a rushed voice. Andrew listened, his face tightening. "Okay," Andrew said finally. "I am coming." He ended the call and turned back to Nora. She was watching him. Her eyes asked questions without words. "I'm sorry," Andrew said. "Something came up. I have to go." Nora stood up slowly. "You look worried," she said. Andrew forced a small smile. "It is just life." Nora nodded, but she still looked unsure. "Will you come back?" she asked. Andrew hesitated, then said, "Yes, I will." He began to walk away, trying to keep his steps slow like a poor man. But inside he was rushing. Because Kunle never called like that unless it was serious. A few minutes later, Kunle arrived. Not in the usual simple car. A very fine car. Clean, shiny, expensive. The kind of car people turned their neck to look at. Kunle parked quickly and stepped out. His face was tense. He walked toward Andrew fast. "Sir, get in," he said quietly. Andrew looked around quickly. Then he entered the car. The door closed, and the car drove off. Andrew did not know Nora had seen everything. Nora had been at her stall, lifting a pot lid, when she noticed the car. At first, she thought she was imagining it. Then she saw Andrew. She froze. Her hand remained on the pot lid as her eyes followed him. She watched him step into the luxury car. She watched the car drive away. For a few seconds, she did not move. Her mind felt confused. Was that Andrew? Or did I see wrongly? Why would a poor man enter a car like that? Nora's chest tightened. She tried to brush it off. But she could not. Something did not make sense anymore. And deep inside her, a quiet fear rose. Andrew did not go back to Nora's stall the next day. Not because he did not want to, but because his mind was not settled. That image of Nora seeing him enter a luxury car kept playing in his head like a warning bell. He sat in his study, still wearing normal clothes now, but he could not relax. Kunle stood in front of him, looking worried. "Sir," Kunle said, "you have to be careful. This thing is already getting complicated." Andrew rubbed his forehead slowly. "I know," he replied, "but I cannot stop now." Kunle hesitated, then spoke gently. "If you really want to know if she is serious, we can test her." Andrew looked up. "Test her how?" Kunle explained his idea clearly. "I will go to her," Kunle said, "not as myself. I will pretend I am a charity worker. I will offer her money to leave you. I will call you a problem. If she agrees, then she was never serious." Andrew stayed quiet. The idea felt wrong, but fear whispered inside him. What if she changes when she finds out I am rich? What if she was only being kind because she is kind to everyone? What if I am about to give my heart again and regret it? Andrew sighed. "Do it," he finally said, "but do not insult her and do not make it look violent." Kunle nodded. "I understand, sir." That afternoon, Kunle dressed simply. Not too rich, not too poor, just neat enough to look official. He carried a small folder and wore a plain face, the kind people trusted easily. Then he drove toward Nora's area, but he parked far away and walked the rest of the way. He did not want her to connect him to the luxury car she saw from a distance. When he reached the stall, Nora was serving food. She looked up when she noticed him standing there patiently. "Good afternoon," Kunle said politely. "Good afternoon," Nora replied, still cautious. Kunle smiled slightly. "My name is Kunle," he said. "I work with a small charity group. We support young women who are trying to build their lives." Nora frowned a little. "Okay." Kunle nodded. "I am here because someone mentioned you to us. They said you are hardworking.
They said you have good character." Nora did not smile. She did not look excited. She just watched him carefully. Kunle continued. "We also heard you have been getting close to a certain man," he said slowly. "A man named Andrew." Nora's eyes narrowed. "Yes," she said simply. "What about him?" Kunle opened his folder and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table. "Listen," he said in a calm voice. "That man is a problem. He may look harmless, but he is not the kind of person you want to attach yourself to." Nora's face changed. "Excuse me?" she said. Kunle kept his voice steady. "If you stop seeing him, this money is yours," he said. "You can use it for your schooling, for your future. You can even move to a better place." Nora stared at the envelope like she did not believe what she was hearing. Then she let out a short, bitter laugh. "Is this a joke?" she asked. Kunle shook his head. "No, I am serious." Nora's anger rose quickly. She pushed the envelope back toward him hard. "Please take that away," she said. Kunle leaned forward slightly, acting like he was trying to help her. "Nora, be wise. People like him will drag you backward." That was the final straw. Nora's eyes burned. "Love is not for sale," she said sharply, "and I do not care whether he has money or not." Kunle blinked, surprised by her strong voice. Nora continued, her tone firm and clear. "If someone sent you to me, go back and tell them this. I am not a woman you can buy." She pointed toward the envelope again. "And if you bring that kind of insult to my stall again, you will not like my response." Kunle sat back, impressed. He stood up slowly, nodding. "All right," he said quietly. "I understand." He picked up the envelope and walked away. Nora watched him go, her chest rising and falling. She did not know she had just passed a test. And Kunle walked back with a strange respect in his heart. That evening, Kunle returned to the mansion. Andrew was waiting. He was tense like a man waiting for a court judgment. Kunle entered and shook his head slowly, but there was a proud smile on his face. "She refused," Kunle said. Andrew's eyes widened. "She did?" Kunle nodded. "She did not even hesitate," he said. "She got angry. She said love is not for sale. She said she does not care whether you have money or not." Andrew leaned back in his chair, breathing out deeply. A smile finally touched his face. For the first time in a long time, he felt proud of his heart. "I knew," Andrew whispered. "I knew I made the right choice." Kunle nodded. "Sir, she is different." Andrew stood up. "Then I cannot hide any more," he said firmly. "I need to tell her the truth." The next day, Andrew prepared carefully. He did not wear his beggar clothes, but he also did not dress too loudly. He chose something simple but clean, a neat shirt, clean trousers, a calm watch. He wanted her to focus on him, not the clothes. He drove near her area, parked, and walked to meet her like a normal man. When Nora saw him, she froze. Andrew could tell she was already unsettled from what she saw yesterday. She looked at him closely, like her mind was still trying to understand. Andrew spoke softly. "Nora, can we talk somewhere quiet?" Nora hesitated, then nodded. They walked to a quiet spot not too far away, a small, open space with a bench, away from too many eyes. Andrew sat down slowly. Nora sat too, but she kept a small distance. Her face was calm, but her eyes were guarded. Andrew took a deep breath. "Nora," he said, "I have been lying to you." Nora's fingers tightened slightly. Andrew continued.
My name is not only Andrew, he said. I am Andrew Adebayo. Nora blinked. So? Andrew swallowed. I am the CEO of Adebayo Group, he said quietly. I am a billionaire. Nora stared at him like she did not hear well. For a few seconds, her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Andrew leaned forward. I disguised myself as a beggar because I wanted to find real love, he explained. I was tired of women loving my money instead of loving me. Nora's face slowly changed. Shock. Then hurt. Then anger that she tried to hide but failed. She stood up. So my kindness was an interview? She asked, her voice shaking. Andrew stood too, reaching out. No, Nora, he said quickly. It was not like that. I never meant to hurt you. Everything I feel for you is real. Nora shook her head, backing away. You lied to me every day, she said, her eyes filling with tears. You sat near my stall and watched me struggle, and you said nothing. Andrew's chest tightened. I wanted to tell you, he said. I tried, but I was afraid. Nora laughed softly, but it was a painful laugh. I do not even know what to think, she whispered. Then she wiped her face quickly as if she hated crying in front of him. She looked at him one last time. I need space, she said. And before Andrew could say anything else, she turned and walked away. Not running, not shouting, just walking away with confusion and pain all over her face. Andrew stood there, frozen, because he got what he wanted. But the truth had still wounded the woman he loved, and he did not know if she would ever forgive him. After that day, Nora became hard to reach. At first, Andrew thought she only needed time, so he gave her space. He sent a message. She replied hours later with only one word. Okay. He called once. She did not pick. When she finally answered days later, her voice was cold, like she was speaking to a stranger. What do you want, Andrew? She asked. Andrew held his breath. I just want to know if you are okay, he said softly. I am fine, Nora replied. Please stop checking on me. Andrew stayed quiet for a moment. He wanted to beg her. He wanted to explain again. But he knew forcing himself into her life would only make her feel more insulted. So he did something he had never done before. He accepted her silence. He stopped calling. He stopped visiting her stall. He stopped trying to prove love with words. Instead, he started proving it quietly, not with announcements, not with big public gestures, with small things that mattered. The first person he helped was Bio. Andrew found the boy again near the area where they first met. Bio was still thin, still cheerful, still trying to survive the street like it was normal life. Andrew did not approach him as a rich man. He sent someone quietly. A man from one of his foundations, dressed like a normal person, walked up to Bio and handed him a small package. Inside were school materials, clean slippers, and a note that said, Someone believes you can do better. Bio was confused. He asked who sent it. The man only smiled and said, A friend. A few days later, Andrew heard that Bio had fallen sick. It was not serious at first, but the street can turn small sickness into something dangerous. Andrew paid for the boy's treatment quietly. No cameras, no speeches, no praise, just help. Then Andrew moved to the next thing, Nora. He did not go to her. He did not call her. He did not want her to feel like he was trying to buy her forgiveness. But he still watched from afar. He sent someone to buy food from her stall every day. Not one person. Different people. Sometimes two men. Sometimes a woman. Sometimes a family. They bought food. They paid well. They left politely. Andrew also helped her without letting her know it was him. One day, he heard Nora's stall had problems with a small local levy issue. People were disturbing her, trying to take what they did not deserve. Andrew paid the matter off quietly through someone in the area. Another day, he heard she needed a new gas cylinder. It arrived at her stall anonymously, early in the morning before she came out. Nora was confused. At first, she suspected her brother. But when she asked him, Tunde looked at her like she was joking. "I did not buy anything," he said. Soon, strange things started happening around that neighborhood. A woman who sold vegetables got help paying hospital bills. A young boy who wanted to go back to school suddenly got his fees paid. A struggling old man got a small shop rent paid for 3 months. And every time people asked questions, the answer was the same. We do not know. It was anonymous. It was like somebody was helping from the shadows. Nora began to hear those stories too. She heard women at the roadside talking. She heard customers mention it. "There is someone helping people around here," one woman said. Another replied, "Yes. They said it is a rich man, but nobody knows who." Nora did not say anything, but her heart began to feel uneasy. Because deep inside her, she remembered Andrew. She remembered how he used to watch people quietly, how he used to look at suffering like it was personal. And she wondered, was it him? But she pushed the thought away, because her pain still felt fresh. Still, she could not deny something was changing. In her neighborhood, kindness was becoming louder than cruelty. And Andrew was the one making it happen. Silently. Just when Andrew thought things could not get more complicated, they did. Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo returned from the United States. They arrived like a storm, not because they were loud, but because their presence carried weight. The mansion felt different the moment they entered. Andrew's father, Mr. Adebayo, was a tall, serious man in his late 50s. He had a calm face that rarely showed emotion, the kind of man whose silence could make people nervous. Andrew's mother, Mrs. Adebayo, was elegant and sharp. She wore expensive clothes as if it was effortless. Her voice was soft, but it could cut like a knife. She was the type of woman who believed class was everything. They hugged Andrew, but Andrew could feel it. They had already heard something. They sat in the living room later that evening, and his mother did not waste time. "Andrew," she said, smiling lightly, "we heard you have been involved with a girl." Andrew's jaw tightened. His father watched him quietly, saying nothing. Andrew spoke carefully. "Yes," he said, "her name is Nora." Mrs. Adebayo's smile faded. "And who is she?" she asked. Andrew hesitated, but he did not lie. "She sells food by the roadside," he said. "She also wants to go back to school." His mother's eyes widened in disbelief. "Roadside food seller?" she repeated slowly, like she did not hear well. Andrew nodded. His father finally spoke, voice calm but heavy. "No, Andrew," he said. "That is not acceptable." Andrew's chest tightened. "She is a good woman," he said. "She is kind. She is intelligent." Mrs. Adebayo lifted her hand slightly, stopping him. "Andrew," she said, "we did not build this family for you to throw it away." Andrew stood up. "I am not throwing anything away," he said. "I am choosing the woman I love." Mrs. Adebayo sighed, as if she was disappointed. Then she leaned forward. "We already have someone for you," she said. Andrew frowned. "Someone?" His mother nodded. "She is called Ivy," she said, as if saying the name alone should convince him. And that was when Ivy walked in. She was introduced like a bride entering a ceremony. Ivy was a well-raised young woman in her late 20s. She was tall, light on her feet, and dressed in a fitted designer dress that looked expensive without trying too hard. Her hair was smooth and styled perfectly. Her smile was polished, the kind people practiced in wealthy homes. She looked confident, like she already believed she belonged there. "Andrew," Mrs. Adebayo said warmly, "this is Ivy. She is the daughter of our close family friends. She is educated, well-spoken, and she understands our world." Ivy stepped forward and offered her hand. "It is nice to finally meet you," she said sweetly. Andrew did not take her hand immediately. He looked at his parents instead. Then he spoke clearly. "I will not marry who I do not love." The room went quiet. Mrs. Adebayo's face tightened. Mr. Adebayo's eyes narrowed slightly. Ivy's smile froze, but she recovered quickly. Mrs. Adebayo stood up slowly. "You will think about it," she said firmly, "because this is bigger than feelings. Andrew shook his head. No, he said again. I have already decided. And in that moment, Andrew realized something. Winning Nora's trust again would be hard. But now he would also have to fight his own parents.
And they did not look like the type that lost battles easily. Nora thought the worst part was already over. She thought the pain of Andrew's lie was the hardest thing she would ever have to carry. But she was wrong. One afternoon, Nora was at her stall, serving customers like normal. Her smile was forced these days, but she still tried. Food still had to sell, bills still had to be paid. Then a neat black car stopped near her stall. People around slowed down to look. 2 women stepped out. One of them looked like money. Calm, expensive, and untouchable. She wore sunglasses, even though the sun was not strong. The second woman followed behind, dressed equally polished, with a careful smile that looked practiced. Nora recognized her from Andrew's house, from the day he had introduced her name in that painful conversation. Ivy. Nora's stomach tightened. Then the first woman stepped forward. Are you Nora? She asked. Nora stood straight. Yes. The woman removed her sunglasses slowly. Her eyes were sharp and cold. I am Mrs. Adebayo, she said. Andrew's mother. Nora felt her chest tighten, but she kept her face calm. People were watching. Mrs. Adebayo glanced around the stall like she was inspecting something dirty. Then she looked back at Nora. Let's speak privately, she said. Nora nodded and led her a few steps away, just behind the stall where customers could not hear clearly. Ivy stayed close enough to listen, pretending she was checking her phone. Mrs. Adebayo did not waste time. I will be direct, she said. My son is not marrying you. Nora's hands tightened at her sides, but she remained respectful. Ma, she said quietly, I did not force Andrew to love me. Mrs. Adebayo's lips tightened. Love is not enough, she replied. You are a roadside food seller. You are not from our world. Nora breathed in slowly. Mrs. Adebayo opened her handbag and brought out a check. She wrote something quickly and tore it out. She held it out to Nora. This is more money than you have ever held, she said. Take it. Leave Andrew. Start a new life somewhere else. Nora stared at the check. Her heart beat hard, but her face stayed calm. She took the check gently. Mrs. Adebayo watched her closely, as if she expected Nora to smile or beg. But Nora did neither. She tore the check into 2, then into 4, then into smaller pieces. Slowly, calmly, she returned the torn pieces to Mrs. Adebayo's hand. Ma, Nora said softly, I am not a woman you can buy. Mrs. Adebayo's eyes widened. For a moment her pride cracked. Then her face hardened again. Be careful, she said. You are not the first girl to pretend she is innocent. Nora's voice remained steady. I am not pretending, she said, and I am not desperate. Mrs. Adebayo stared at her, then turned away sharply. Ivy stepped forward beside Mrs. Adebayo, her face sweet. Good luck, Ivy said, but her tone carried something hidden. Then they walked back to the car and drove away. That same week, rumors started spreading. At first, Nora heard them like whispers. Then she began hearing them loudly. She trapped him. She is a gold digger. She knew he was rich from the beginning. She is pretending to be humble. Some people even started coming to her stall just to stare. Some customers reduced. Some women began laughing behind her back. And Ivy made sure the rumors moved fast. She used social media pages and gossip blogs. She used people who liked to talk. She planted the story like a seed. And soon, it was growing. Nora tried to act strong in public. But one night, after she closed, she returned to the small room she shared with her brother and broke down. She cried quietly into her pillow. Not because she wanted money, not because she wanted fame, but because she was tired. Tired of being looked at like she was nothing. Tired of being judged like she had no value. Tired of being attacked when all she did was love. The next day, Andrew came to her. Not at the stall. Not in public. He came quietly, asking to see her for a few minutes. When Nora saw him,
She tried to keep her face hard.
But her eyes betrayed her. Andrew stepped closer. "I know what they are doing," he said softly. "I know what my mother did." Nora looked away. "I'm tired, Andrew," she whispered. "I feel small in this world." Andrew's throat tightened.
"I'm sorry," he said. "Not the type of sorry people say to escape trouble. I mean it. I hurt you. I made you carry shame you did not deserve." Nora's eyes filled again. Andrew continued, his voice calm but deep. "I have everything under control," he said.
"I will not let them destroy you." Nora finally looked at him. "Are you sure?" she asked, sounding like a tired child for the first time. Andrew nodded. "I'm sure," he said, "because I am done hiding." He stepped closer and held her hands. Nora did not pull away. Andrew leaned in slowly like he was asking permission without words. And Nora, still shaking inside, closed the space between them. Their kiss was not light. It was full of emotion, pain, longing, apology, and love all mixed together. When they pulled back, Nora's face was wet. Andrew wiped her tears gently with his thumb. "I will fight openly now," he said. And Nora believed him. Because for the first time, Andrew did not sound like a man testing love. He sounded like a man ready to protect it. Andrew moved quickly. He did not want the rumors to grow into something Nora could never escape. So he planned something small but meaningful. A charity launch. Not a loud party. Not a flashy event. A simple public gathering where his voice would carry weight and truth. The event was held in a clean hall in Lagos. Journalists were there. Business partners were there. Some charity workers were there. Even a few influencers came, hoping to catch drama. Nora did not even want to attend at first. She was afraid of being stared at. But Andrew held her hand and said, "Come, this is for you." So she came. She wore a simple, neat dress. No heavy makeup. No pretending. Just Nora. Andrew walked on stage and stood before the crowd. He did not smile like a proud billionaire. He looked serious, humble, like a man ready to confess. He held the microphone and spoke clearly. "My name is Andrew Adebayo," he began. "I am the CEO of Adebayo Group." People nodded. That part was normal. Then he shocked them. "But I want to start with an apology," Andrew said. The hall became quiet. Andrew continued. "I deceived someone I love," he said. "And I want to apologize publicly because my mistake became her burden." People leaned in. Andrew turned slightly and looked at Nora in the front row. Then he faced the crowd again. "I disguised myself as a beggar," he admitted. "Not for jokes, not for social media. I did it because I was tired of fake love." Murmurs spread. Andrew's voice stayed steady. "And Nora," he said, "did not choose me because she knew I had money." He pointed gently toward her, not like showing her off, but like honoring her. "She fed me when I had nothing," he said. "She defended me when people insulted me. She treated me like a human being when the world treated me like dirt." The room went silent. Andrew's eyes became moist, but he did not hide it. "She did not know who I was," he said. "She only knew I was poor, and she still chose kindness." Then Andrew lifted his head. "So to everyone spreading rumors," he said, voice firm now, "Nora is not a gold digger. She is not desperate. She is not using me." He paused. "If anything," he said, "I am the one who is blessed that she ever looked at me." Some people in the hall clapped quietly. Others looked ashamed. Andrew ended with a calm promise. "I will not let my mistake destroy her name," he said. "From today, anyone who disrespects her is disrespecting me." He stepped down from the stage. And for the first time in weeks, Nora felt like she could breathe. Across town, Officer Tunde was on duty when he saw the news. Someone showed him the video. At first, he did not pay attention. Then he heard the words, "I disguised myself as a beggar." Tunde froze. He looked at the screen again. His eyes widened. His mouth opened slowly. "That beggar," he whispered. "He is a billionaire?" A wave of embarrassment hit him. He remembered how he had warned Nora.
He remembered how he judged Andrew's clothes. He remembered how he called him suspicious. But behind the embarrassment was another feeling. Emotion. Because he had not been wicked.
He had only been afraid. Tunde later asked for a private meeting with Andrew. They met in a quiet office space. Tunde stood stiffly at first, like a man who did not know where to begin. Then he finally spoke.
"I didn't support you," he said, "because I thought you were dragging her backward." Andrew listened calmly. Tunde's voice became softer. "We are orphans," he said. "I have been protecting her with fear. I only wanted her to have a better life than what we suffered." Andrew nodded with respect. "I understand," Andrew said, "and I don't blame you for caring." Tunde stared at him. Andrew continued, clear and sincere. "I'm not here to use her," he said. "I'm here to honor her." Then Andrew added something that surprised Tunde. "Thank you," Andrew said. "You helped me too. You protected me on the street when others ignored me. I won't forget that." Tunde's throat tightened. He nodded slowly, shame and respect mixing together. He stretched out his hand. Andrew shook it firmly. And when they parted, Tunde felt lighter. Later that night, Tunde went home and sat with Nora. He did not shout. He did not lecture. He simply looked at her and said, "I'm sorry." Nora blinked. "For what?" "For trying to control your happiness," Tunde said. "I thought I knew what was best. I was wrong." Nora's eyes filled with tears. Tunde continued, voice low. "You have my blessing," he said. "If you love him, I will support you." Nora stood up and hugged him tightly. For a moment they were not officer and food seller. They were just brother and sister who had survived life together. Now came the hardest part. Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo. They tried to resist at first. They were still proud, still stiff, still looking at Nora's background like a stain. But Andrew stood firm. "If you want me in your life," he told them, "you must respect my wife." That word, wife, hit them. They finally agreed to meet Nora officially. Nora entered their home quietly, not shaking, not begging, not trying to impress. Just calm, just dignified. Mrs. Adebayo watched her closely. Nora greeted them respectfully. She did not pretend she was rich. She did not pretend she was perfect. She spoke with simple confidence. When Mrs. Adebayo tried to offer her money again, Nora refused calmly. "Ma," she said, "I respect you, but I cannot be bought." That moment stayed in the room. Mr. Adebayo was the first to soften, quietly. He looked at Andrew and said, "If this is truly your choice, we will not fight you forever." Mrs. Adebayo struggled more. Her pride was stronger than her emotions. But after hearing the full story, how Nora loved Andrew when he had nothing, something inside her broke. Not because Andrew was rich, but because Nora was rare. Mrs. Adebayo finally faced Nora and spoke softly. "I was wrong," she said. "I'm sorry." Nora's eyes widened. She nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Ma." Not long after, Andrew invited Nora to a private dinner. It was quiet, warm, just the two of them. No cameras, no noise. Andrew took her hands across the table. He brought out a ring, and he proposed. Nora's eyes filled immediately. She smiled, but she raised one finger. "I will say yes," she said, "but on one condition." Andrew swallowed.
"Anything." "No more lies," Nora said. Andrew nodded firmly. "No more lies." And Nora said yes. The final scene was not loud. Just a small, warm engagement and family introduction ceremony. Simple food. Soft laughter. Real acceptance. Later, Nora returned to school. Not because she was trying to prove anything, but because her dream mattered. And Andrew stood beside her, not as a savior, but as a partner. The kind of love they built did not start with money. It started with bread, kindness, and dignity. And that was why it lasted.